Alright, so now that we've got the top, the baffle, and the bottom on, it's time to cut the sides. So here's a little trick for you. What we've done is we've taken the side pieces that we cut that were originally square, and we've set them in here, and we've clamped it together so the box is true and square. And we'll take our carpenter square here, and we'll just lay that across the angles, and this is a parallel straight line here. So what we'll do is we'll just draw that line here. And this is what we're going to cut. So there's our angle. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and cut this off on the table saw.
Alright, I'm getting her lined up here now. I'll go ahead and fire up the saw, and I'll cut this angle.
Hold on a second now.
What?
We've got a better way. This is a dangerous operation here because you're going to freehand this. The two pieces, the sides won't ever be the same, and it's really dangerous because you're not using the fence. What we want to do here is we want to be able to cut this angle and have a predictable straight result. Okay, so the best way to use a table saw is with the rip fence, but we don't want to do that, and we can't do that because it's at an angle. We could use like a miter gauge, but a lot of times those are too small to cut angles. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take a scrap piece of wood. I need some double stick tape. There's some right here, and we'll tape this. Run some tape on here and tape a scrap piece of wood onto the part that we want to keep. Okay, so here's a scrap piece of wood. What we want to do is we want to make sure that this scrap piece of wood is set to the dimension here. We want to set it up so that our rip fence is cutting this scrap piece of wood flush. Okay, so I measured this. This is about 17 inches, so I've got my saw set to 17 inches. And what I'll do is I'll take this piece of wood, tape it down right on our line. Okay, just like that. And now what we can do is take and run the straight edge of our scrap piece and turn our angle piece and run it right down the saw. And what you'll see is we'll have this angle piece cut on the table saw, and it's straight every time. Our angle piece. So we'll cut the other one the exactly same way.
Wow, Jason, what a great trick. Look at how well those angles match up to our box now. I'm going to go ahead and finish the construction using the same techniques as before. We're going to do 100% glue area on all the contact points. Staple. Now that we've got our box to this point, we want to go ahead and be sure, since it's sealed, to keep all that air inside. So we're going to use some silicone sealant and caulk all of the joints inside of the box. So I'm just applying caulk in all the joints. Once I get some in there, I'm going to take my finger and rub it so there's no air gaps anywhere, and we get nice, even coverage inside of the whole box. We're going to go ahead and glue the back panel on now and go ahead and attach it with our staple gun. And then once we're done with that, we can cut the hole in the box, and then we can caulk the back edge through the woofer hole. When working with these angles, be sure and keep your stapler parallel with the board you're going into. If you keep it parallel with the board you're working on, it'll blow right through the side and you won't get a good joint. So you want to keep it parallel with the board it's going into. A nice looking, solid enclosure. So we'll go ahead and pass it back over to Jason, and we'll let him cut the hole for the woofer in the front of this thing.
Alright, so Greg's got the box all put together now. So what we're going to do is we're going to come in and I'll drill a hole and take our jigsaw here and we'll cut this hole out, alright?
Whoa, 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 Jason.
Oh.
Why don't we try something new today? We've got a RTTI circle cutter that is predetermined for all the different woofers that we sell here at Rockford. Whether it's punch and power, P1, P2, P3, or T1, T2, we have all the cutouts, both inside, where the woofer actually mounts, and outside. So if you wanted to do a double baffle and flush the woofer, it would go on the outside. All those are pre-laid out here for you on the router template.
Cool, let's go ahead and set that up. That sounds like a better deal.
I'll take the carpenter square, and I'll come across the corners here and find the center of this box. And drill it nice and square right here in the middle. Now we'll simply find the corresponding hole that we want to cut, which today we're using a P3 12-inch. So we can see P3, here's the 12-inch marked out. Take our drill bit, slide it through there, put it in the hole that we just drilled. Now that gives us a nice pivot for this router to run on. We can cut a perfectly round hole. Be sure that your router is set up with a 1/4-inch spiral upcut bit. Proper safety precautions. You see a lot of guys that want to do this in one shot. I like to take at least 2 depending on the material. So, fire up the router. Now that our box is constructed and the hole's cut, we can go back and caulk that last final panel in the back to make sure this thing's airtight. So we'll do one final check with our woofer template to be sure everything fits. Boy, as you can see, that hole is cut right to the right size. We got plenty of clearance in the back. We're not going to have any fitment issues with this speaker. This is going to be a great sounding, nice solid box.